It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. From roommates to co-hosts, this is the BS Sports Show with Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner. Your go-to destination for New York hockey and NHL news. And now it's time to drop the puck. Here are your hosts, Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner.
Boom. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the BS Sports Show. Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner here, and I'm not going to get into it yet because I know Stefan's got a little bit of a service announcement to make. So, Stefan, what's up, buddy?
First up, how you doing today? I'm so happy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. We got hockey back.
I know. Well, we don't have it back just yet, but there's a plan in place. Anyway, my public service announcement is for all those goalies out there that always get texts from their long-lost friends they haven't talked to in, I don't know, months and years, saying, hey, how are you? Can you play goalie? You never hear from them any other time, so I just want to say my thoughts and prayers are with you because that's happened to me about 6 times this week. But, we move on. We're okay.
Everybody needs a goalie. You should feel wanted, It's a good thing. I
want to be wanted for my funniness, my personality, my
funniness. The word's humor.
Humor. There you go.
That's too many plastic pucks to the head, huh?
Laugh at me or with me, it doesn't matter. But, yes, I would more than happy to be your goalie. Just, let's have some opening conversations.
Take me to get a beer first is what you're saying.
Or dinner, yeah, whatever.
Or dinner, okay. Wow, you're really amping up that price range.
I'm hungry.
Well, we got a great show planned today. We have a special guest coming on later. There's just so much to get into, and we have some good news regarding the NHL season. 56 games from Pierre LeBrun, January 13th appears to be the target start date. Training camps are going to wind up getting geared up soon, and if they could work out the last ditch details and COVID remains at bay, which is always a hope, not a guarantee, but it looks good. And the first time we heard the mention of a 56 game season was from you, our very own Stefan Rosner. Breaking news, becoming an NHL insider with 3 R's, and it was great. Yeah,
I'm not trying to brag. The tweet did phenomenal. It got 852. Oh, excuse me, I can't read. 652 likes, 112 retweets. It was a good day, but I can't take all the credit because I didn't make this information up. I heard it from a source that I really rely on heavily, which will not be released unless you can guess my twin's name. But if you guess that, then you know him, so it's not happening. Anyway, that news won't be released, but it's great for hockey. There's a plan in place. 56 games starting January 13th. Hockey is going to happen this year, and we cannot be more excited for this to happen.
Well, we've spent the last 2 weeks talking about how hockey has to come back. It's not we want hockey to come back, but a necessity for the sport to continue surviving because their financials aren't great. So they got to have a season. And listen, from all the reports, it looks like it's going to be in their own arenas, which opens up the possibility of some teams getting fans. And I know that those teams want to keep that revenue, but odds are the league's going to take a little bit of that. And if we wind up getting a vaccine and the season's still in play, we could see even New York open up a little bit and let some fans come in, which I know I'm a Rangers fan, right? I know people know that, but I'm very happy that Islanders fans at least get to watch on TV their team play at Nassau Coliseum in its final season, not at a bubble, because that would just be it. That's one of the greatest buildings to actually watch a game. It's not one of the nicest places to be, but it is the greatest place to watch a game just because of how close everyone is on top of the action.
No, it is a phenomenal place to watch a hockey game. No real bad seat. There's one bad seat. The one bad seat is the highest row possible because there's an overhang that cuts off top the scoreboard.
Yep.
Besides that, it is so loud. You feel like such a family when you're there. You might not know the guy next to you watching the game or 6 feet away from you if it happens this year, but you're all rooting for the Islanders or most of you. It's just a fun place to be around. And, we go into the Olympics start 23rd, which means the Stanley Cup's got to be done by then.
Yep.
And it's great that, we don't have to wait another month for hockey for February because then you cut real close to, all right, now you can have 56 games. Maybe it's 40-something plus. 40-something plus is what we saw last time there was a half season. So it's great to see there's a plan in place. But like you said, LeBron's the guy. I'm the guy too, but LeBron's the bigger guy. He tweets it out. Everybody knows and loves him. But what I think this is really big that they have a plan in place because of the UFAs and the RFAs that still have not signed yet. Like Hoffman. We're going to get it. We're going to know where Hoffman's playing maybe this week. Like the news is the Barzell contract. I would say it's happening this week or next. It has to because they got to get ready. They have to report 2 weeks before the season begins, right, Brendan? 2 weeks before?
A minimum 2 weeks.
A minimum of 2 weeks before. So that means they can't report January 1st. They got to report before then because that's 13 days and it's 14. So all these little things that we're waiting for, these contracts, all that kind of stuff is going to be happening in the next coming weeks. And that's great for Islander fans because we know Barzal is coming back. The question is how much. Who else is coming back? Matt Martin's still inside. Is Derek Brassard come back? Andy Green come back on a 1-year deal? You're going to get your answers now, and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, over this weekend, we called each other and we were talking about how this week could be the make or break week for us getting a season. And just like that, Monday we get the news and it's huge, man. It's awesome that it's coming back and today we get even more information. And I'm just happy that there's rumors going in the right direction. And obviously the owners have to have a 2/3 vote of approval to have the whole geographic realignment, which is something that is going to be needed for this season to happen because of the Canadian teams. But it will happen. This one will pass. And before we get into the next topic, our special guest is Natalina Focarelli, a writer for Forever Blueshirts. So Rangers fans are going to want to stay tuned for that. She's coming on at 6:05. Don't miss that. But we also have some World Junior Championship news to get to.
Yeah, Jack Hughes and Alexis Lafreniere will not play at the World Junior Championships. And Canadians are not happy about this, obviously. It's one of their homegrown players. They want to see him play. They could give a crap about Jack Hughes because he's American. But at the same time, Lafreniere got hurt last year in the World Juniors. We've seen players get hurt all the time. And for a season that's going to be short, which means a groin injury, any injury that's out 4 to 6 weeks, is going to miss a lot of time. And I don't think the Rangers want to take that chance. And I don't blame them. I think this is the complete – There's no point. He's proven himself. And the fact that he got hurt last year is irrelevant. If he didn't get hurt last year, he's not playing in this tournament. There's no upside. What's the upside to him playing this tournament? He dominates and showcases why he's the number 1 overall pick. There's no point.
No, he already won the MVP of the tournament. He won his gold medal. There is no reason for him to go back. And like you said, he did get hurt last time he played in it. So why would the Rangers take that risk? And there were so many Canadian fans on Twitter that or going at the Rangers saying this is a joke or it's an American conspiracy theory. It's an American team. They want the USA team to win. And John Davidson came out and said there's no conspiracy theories here. It's just we do not want to risk getting our number 1 overall pick injured when the season is going to start January 13th and this tournament's going to end about a week before that. So there's really no point in sending him there. I know Kirby Dach from the Chicago Blackhawks is playing, but now Chicago's got to be like, okay, do we really want him to play if the season started January 13th? Is there a way that they could pull him? I think we're going to see some interesting things like that. We're going to talk a little bit more later about some Rangers prospects that aren't playing on Team Sweden because they got hit hard by COVID. But this tournament's still going to be exciting. It's in a couple of weeks. And regardless of whether Alexis Lafreniere is wearing the Canadian jersey, the Canadian team is going to be good, and they're going to be fun to watch in this tournament.
They just pull. It's like Oprah. You get a good Canadian. Although Canadian players are good, it's not like you're going to have a bad Canadian on the team that's going to hurt you. I mean, I know Noah Dobson whiffed, and that's probably the worst Canadian player, quote unquote, incident that to happen in quite some time just because of the magnitude. We were watching that live. You were like, wow, that's crazy. And in my head, I'm like, that's crazy. And I'm also like, that's not good. That's not good at all. But fortunately, there was a player on the Islanders, but I'll go off topic. His name was Matt Donovan. And this guy broke his stick every time. I even saw a game in Bridgeport. I'm like, okay, he can't do it here. It's not going to happen. He broke his stick like 3 times that game. I don't understand how it happens that much. But for that situation to break your stick, I understand it. I wish he didn't. But at the end of the day, it happens. You move on. No one's remembering it now if he has a great season and is full season playing in the lineup. But yeah, I don't think anyone's going to care that Jack Hughes and Lafreniere is not playing when it starts. You're going to get caught up in hockey's back that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, even Capo Caco was eligible for it, and he's not going to be suiting up, obviously. It's all pre-talk, before the tournament starts. We want to see these guys. And then as soon as action's like, all right, hockey's back. We don't need to see those guys. It's still good competition. And the same thing with the NHL season. People are like, oh, are we going to realize it's a real season? Is there going to be an asterisk? Is there going to be this, that? How are they going to get it to work? And as soon as it starts, all those worries go out the window, and it's just hockey again.
When you think of 2014, was there an asterisk?
No.
All right, so there's your answer.
You don't even realize there was a lockout that year.
No, not. You just remember that Chicago went on an absolute tear.
Yeah.
But speaking of Chicago, maybe they're sending Doc because they don't have confidence their team's going to do anything this year anyway. They have a goalie issue, a major question mark in goal.
Probably the biggest goalie question mark in the league.
They're in a complete rebuild. So if anything, this shows Kirby Dach off to the world about, okay, there's a young talent in Chicago looming, and he's gonna be that guy for them in the future. So maybe it's all marketing, Brendan. We took marketing classes in college.
We did, and we cannot do it as well as the Blackhawks are planning on doing it right now. So kudos to them for that. But, one of my favorite players growing up for the Rangers with Matt Zuccarello, and obviously they dealt him during the rebuild. He now finds himself playing in Dallas, Minnesota. He was on Dallas when the first time he injured his arm, and now again on Minnesota. Got surgery on his arm in Norway, out indefinitely. And for a team that you had mentioned, they got Cam Talbot. They're now looking to get into the playoffs again, and this time go a little farther because they're always on that borderline. They're like the older Rangers teams where they were good enough to get in but not good enough to do anything, and they can't get any picks. But they need Matt Zuccarello because no matter how much he's getting up there in age, he's still extraordinarily valuable offensively and defensively, and he does all the little things right, and he's a big component of the locker room. So for him to be out on an unbeknownst amount of time is definitely a hindrance to their success.
Again, we talked about it. Every injury is magnified this year in a shortened season. He's out indefinitely. Does that mean he's coming back February, April? When does that mean he's coming back? And for a guy like you said, big locker room guy, and this team needs a leader. They don't have a captain. Eric Stahl was dealt. Mikko Koivu wasn't brought back. There are questions about Zach Parise being dealt still. This team did not have what is the Minnesota Wild? You didn't know last year. You didn't know the year before. Who are they? What is their strengths and weaknesses? What can they be? You didn't find that out 2 years ago. You didn't find that out last year. You got a brand new goalie in Cam Talbot, who's, again, a big question mark. This is probably his last chance ever to be a starter in the NHL. And he's getting paid a significant amount of money, I think, for a guy that really hasn't shown me he could be that number one guy. Yes, they have Stalock. Stalock played very well. He is not a starter at the NHL level. But, this is a Minnesota team that's trying to get back to winning. This is the state of hockey. When Minnesota has been so irrelevant for a couple of years, and you're starting to see this core that they had, and Parise coming over from the Devils, that was a huge signing. Courtney's been there forever. And now it's like those guys are gone. Zuccarello was your leader. He's now not on the ice. It's tough for Minnesota. Fortunately for them, their reverse retros are phenomenal. And maybe we'll get to see them more often. But it's tough for Minnesota to deal with this now. And I guess we'll see what they do. They got some young, nice pieces. Spurgeon's a dominant guy in the back end. It's just a matter of time to see what this coaching staff can do with this team because, again, a lot of question marks.
There is. And, in a 56-game season, it's not like you have time to adjust and rebound after a bad start. If a Wild team without Zuccarello goes 3-7 in their first 10 games, that's a hard hole to climb out of because you're only playing people in your division. So it's tough. It's tough to lose a key component like that. And we're going to see it in Dallas, too, if, Tyler Sagan's not ready for the start and Ben Bishop's not ready for the start and Khudobin struggles. It's going to be a tough situation to climb out of, especially a team that's as good as Dallas is. They might be able to hold forward a little bit better than a Minnesota. So it's interesting to see that all pan out. And if somebody does get COVID, how that affects it. We saw it in the NFL. People like Lamar Jackson's getting COVID on the Ravens. He misses a week and they lose. So how's that going to impact the NHL season where it's not once a week you're playing often? All things like that. But listen, unique times call for unique circumstances, and we've never seen anything like this before, and it's probably going to be one of the hardest seasons to predict.
Hardest seasons to predict, and again, we talked about how the bubble was going to be one of the hardest things to win. This season, going through the COVID test all the time, people missing because of COVID, all this stuff, balancing out the mental game more than the physical, probably with, all right, am I going to get COVID? What are the new rules? Obviously, we don't think there's any rules in place about, you can't fight. That's not, it's the NHL. You could do that stuff, but let's move on. So Vancouver Canucks part ways with their national anthem singer, Mark Donnelly, because he performed at an anti-mask rally. And for those of you who do not know who Mark Donnelly is, let's just remind the people. So hold on one second, Brendan. So I'm going to play this clip, and maybe it'll bring back some long-lost memories, shall we?
I'm smiling already.
So he struggles to get up. That's a problem. But he struggles to get up. He falls down. If you don't remember that was in 2014. It wasn't an NHL game. But Brendan, he's no longer back as a.
I mean, it's like it brings out the child in all of us because no matter how old you are, that's funny, right? This guy's singing, belting, and all of a sudden, boom, he's down. Not only does he falls, but he glides like very smoothly into the next rug where he struggles to get off that. Just an unfortunate chain of events, but even more unfortunate is now he's canned and the Vancouver Canucks pulled the rug out from under him.
Oh, Brendan?
That was good.
That was one of the best ones you ever had, Brendan.
Thank you. I'll take a bow.
Anyway, but it's just It's unfortunate. I mean, we don't want to get into the legal issues here because we think he has a very big case of not losing his job. But we don't know all the information. But, times are tough, Brendan. He's not performing at Vancouver games. He went for a secondary source of income. They probably paid him a nice amount. I don't think he had to be on skates, which is probably part of his contract. So it's not good. They'll have to find a new one. Hopefully there'll be people. See, that's what's going to happen this year with the national anthem. Are they going to just play a virtual clip if there can't be fans? Does he come onto the ice and sing it, get COVID tested?
It's interesting because if employees of the team are allowed in the facility, then the national anthem singer should be as well. It's not like anybody's around him when he's singing it, right? He's kind of in his own box. So if he takes his mask off to sing it and then puts it back on to walk around, why not have in-person national anthems? But safer, they'll probably just go with the pre-recorded version.
Yeah, but he will not be singing. So that's unfortunate. But we can move on to That's BS, Brendan.
Oh, yeah, here we go. This is we have a couple of good ones because we all saw the news of Jerome McGinley getting interviewed by a Boston network about the snowfall in Boston. And I don't know how you don't know you're talking to Jerome McGinley. Like maybe off the bat you could say, all right, this guy might not be a hockey fan. The big NHL guy maybe doesn't know who he is. But as soon as he goes, yeah, I'm from Canada, with the Canadian accent, and like something's got to give where you go, all right, maybe this guy is somebody special.
It'd be one thing didn't he play for Boston for a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a very brief stint, but he was playing in Boston.
Yeah, it's not like he wasn't. Let's say he didn't play for Boston. Okay, maybe the Boston fan doesn't know, oh, that's Jerome McGinley because he played out west for such a long time with Calgary. I know and then he played for Pittsburgh, right, for a little bit too.
After that initial trade, he bounced around to a couple teams. It was Pittsburgh, it was Boston, and those were two for a fact.
Yeah, I get confused between him and Yager because they've been all over the place after the.
Yager played for every team in the NHL.
I know, yeah, that's crazy. But the fact that you don't recognize, it's so funny watching the video because he knows the guy doesn't know who he is.
Yep.
Like the way he's answering it, but even with all the coats on, you got to know it's Jerome McGinley. Nesson, where maybe he worked for the Boston. I just wanted to say Nesson, Brendan, because we were talking about earlier. It stands for Northeast Sports Network. So no, it's New England, not even Northeast, New England.
No, wow, you're all over the book right now.
But no, that's unfortunate they forgot that. But let's move on to even funnier news, and this is the biggest BS I've ever heard. Is Eugene Melnyk, Ottawa Senators owner, correct?
Correct.
GM Dorian.
The GM is Pierre Dorian. Yeah.
Yeah. The GM, the owner of the Ottawa Senators, says that they are ready to win a Stanley Cup.
Well, he didn't even just say that. He went into more detail of why he thinks. He said, "We have turned the corner. We just now need to execute on what we have. This is the team with what we have right now, I believe can win a Stanley Cup already. And that's without adding some veterans, which we plan to do." Now, he said that to the Ottawa Sun. I understand optimism. Optimism is needed. Obviously, your team's going through a rebuild, and they're loaded with young talent. We talked about how they added Dadonov, right? They also added Matt Murray in goal. They added Alex Galchenyuk, and they added Eric Branson, who's a bottom pairing defenseman, but he'll be sturdy there. So did they go in a good direction this offseason? Yes. They also had 3 first-round picks. Like, they did a lot of good things. We're not knocking that. But there's a difference between doing good things and being ready to win a Stanley Cup. The Rangers have done good things over the last 2 years, and they're not ready to win the Stanley Cup, and they have better players on their team right now. So
is cannabis legal in Canada?
I'm not sure.
No, it definitely
he's on it.
Percent is, but he is definitely on it. And yes, you're a realist, Brendan. I've known that since I've known you. You're a realist. And yeah, you want to shine a positive light, after the whole Uber incident. Well, we'll recap the Uber incident where Ottawa Senator players were bashing the organization, the coaching staffs were making stupid plays, and they're terrible coaches, and the Uber driver recorded the whole thing. Kudos to him because that was hysterical.
Yep.
But all right, let's break down piece by piece real quick. Matt Murray, good goalie. Injury prone in a season like this, injuries can happen or they're in trouble because their backup's Anders Nilsson, and he's proven that he can't really handle anything in the NHL. Dadonov's great signing, 25-plus goal scorer every year in the league, but he was playing on a very good Florida team with a Hoffman, with a Barkov, with a Huberdeau. So that's talent around him, which he won't have. Brady Tkachuk's great, yes, don't get me wrong, but he's not Barkov. And Galchenyuk has really besides having a few good seasons in the NHL, he has been a failure everywhere he's gone. That's why he keeps getting traded. It's not because everybody wants him. It's because, maybe he'll work out here. And he's never worked out where he's gone after he left his first team. And Gabranson, like you said, the bottom 6. So, yeah, they added great pieces. They're a young team. They had a great draft. You know how hard it is to win in a Stanley Cup at the Lightning team that was one of the best teams of all time in the regular season got swept in the first round by a Columbus Blue Jackets team that just snuck in.
Now, that does kind of help their cause.
It does. Because
anything can happen.
That good. Anything can happen. But I don't see Ottawa. First off, in a regular season, making the playoffs can be tough. They're in an all-Canadian division.
I was just going to say that.
Sorry, they are not making. They can have a solid year, but they're not making the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs, that's on the other teams in that division for failing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who they could pass, right? I mean, Vancouver lost a lot, but are they bad enough to get passed by Ottawa? Montreal added 2, and they have, I would say Carey Price has the ability to carry them if he bounces back and plays like he did in the postseason.
Carey Price carry them.
I wasn't even intending. My puns are on point right now, though.
All the teams in that division, Ottawa's last. They're last. They could have a solid year. They'd still be last in that division because it's just.
I don't see any way in which they're not.
Like, will they beat Toronto once out of 8 times?
No, they'll probably beat Toronto. They'll probably be close to 500 with every team, but close to 500 doesn't do anything because it. All right, say they go 3-3-2, right, against Toronto. That looks good for them. Like, they're beating a team that's going to be in the top 3, you would think, in that division 3 times. They only lost 3 times, but they also lost twice in overtime. So Toronto basically won 5 of those games. That's 10 points that they're getting. And so that math doesn't help them at all. It's tough.
So if you're a Senators fan and you see these comments, are you more mad or are you happy that he made those comments?
Well, Melnick's been known for being delusional.
No, but I'd be mad. I'd be like, why? You were already an embarrassment in the league. Yes, we had a good draft. Yes, you picked up some good guys, but we haven't earned anything yet. It's like when the Mets, who's the GM of the Mets that came over and was like, yeah, watch out for us in the NL East.
Oh, Brody Van Wagenen?
Brody Van Wagenen comes over and his first year goes, watch out for us. And then just nothing. You're setting yourself, for him saying that comment, if they don't have a solid year.
The bar is up there.
You have just, it's very funny and it's delusional. It's delusional, Brendan.
I would have said, if he came out, right, and goes, I think we have a team that can make the playoffs this year. Okay. You did have a good season, a good off season. You're building in the right direction. If young guys take a step, that's great. But by coming out and saying, we're going to win the Stanley Cup, that is a really bold statement. And I really don't think they have any way of meeting that expectation. When we come back from this commercial break, we are going to discuss what escrow is, because that's been a topic that's been thrown around the last couple of weeks, and a lot of NHL fans are not really sure. And we're also going to talk about the New York Rangers, New York Islanders, and our predictions for next season. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay with us.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back to the BS Sports Show, everybody. Brendan and Stefan here, and now we're going to dive into escrow. And by no means are me and Stefan CBA experts. Do we know exactly what this means? No, but we're going to give it our best shot at defining it for you, because over the last couple of weeks and really the last year since they tried to return to play, all we've heard was about escrow and how the players don't want to have more money go to that, and how the league continues to push for more money to go to escrow. And Stefan, give us the basic definition of what escrow is.
Escrow is pretty much a savings bank. So at the end of the year, they calculate the total money that the NHL makes. They split it 50-50 between the owners and the players. Now, like last year, where the season was cut short, the league didn't make the 50% that they needed to make. So you take the escrow money and you make it that way, it's 50-50. Usually the players never get the extra money because the owners are usually the ones that are short. So that's what the situation is, that the escrow money is pretty much saved money just in case the owners can't make up the 50%. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, in a COVID-like season like this, where there might not be fans in all arenas the whole entire year, the owners are no way going to reach that revenue mark. The league's not going to get to its desired mark, and the 50-50 split won't be enough to pay the players their full salary. So that's why this whole problem of they had an agreed-upon thing for the return to play, and now the league wanted more escrow. The players are like, no, we already are giving enough of our salaries away. We need to make some money too. And you've seen a lot of players, Artemi Panarin, a perfect example, who signed a huge contract, the majority of which is signing bonuses, because that gets paid up front. So it doesn't necessarily, I think a little bit gets taken out for escrow, but they get the majority of their money right away. Their salary this year is only like $1 million, right? But we know he's making over 11. So that's a little way the players have gotten around it. But at the same time, unless you're an Artemi Panarin caliber player, you're not getting a deal like that.
The guys that are on league minimum deals, they didn't get their full no one got their full contracts last year, but I mean, they need the money more than a player like Panarin does.
Yep.
So it's tough, but I mean, that's all the economics of the league. They got guys on that. Clearly they've come to an agreement because the economic issues are no more. It's just COVID now. That's a good thing. So you don't have to worry about escrow anymore for the time being.
I mean, hopefully it stays that way and there's no more problems that arise, because after this year, we'll have fans back in the arenas. The cap will start to go up and we'll see some more normalcy. Obviously, after this season, the huge thing that's happening is a new television deal for the NHL. There should be a bidding war for that. It'll be a lot. It'll probably increase by 100%. I think it's a $200 million deal right now. There's no reason the NHL shouldn't get at least $400 million. The NBA, MLB, and NFL are all at $1 billion deals. So the NHL is far behind them, but no reason they shouldn't increase a lot. And that'll help the financial aspect as well. So get through this year, which is what they're trying to do right now, and good things will start to happen. Expansion next year as well, which is great to look forward to. Seattle, no way they could replicate Vegas. I think the teams are privy now to what's going on, but
high standard. We'll see what happens. They have a good ownership group in place there. So
I think that, hold on, before you move on, if Gerard Gallant gets hired,
which he should,
I think he will.
He'll be the first probably coach in NHL history to
coach two expansion teams.
No, first year expansion teams. Yeah.
He might be, but say he gets them to the playoffs, not even the conference final or the Stanley Cup final.
Fire him.
No, should he go to the Hall of Fame?
Yes. Yes.
Even if his numbers are nowhere near other coaches that are in the Hall of Fame, but just because he took two first-year teams to a playoffs?
Because technically you're transcending the sport. I mean, expansion drafts, for expansion teams usually fail. They are miserable their first couple of years. They're lucky to make the playoffs their first couple of years. He brought his to the Stanley Cup final. And unfortunately, for some reason, which worked out, he was let go and the team played better with Pete DeBoer. But, I mean, if he could do this again with another expansion team and build around that. And I mean, it's not like the Vegas team was full of superstars. Those were not mediocre, but they were second, third, fourth line players that he found a way to get on the right lines, build the right chemistry. I mean, it starts with Fleury and net. You have a dynamic goalie in net to start. Most expansion teams aren't getting a guy like that. Fortunately for their sake, Pittsburgh couldn't keep him. So that's it'll be interesting to see who Seattle does get, but that's a conversation for another day. But that'll be a fun offseason, Brendan, to get that. That's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, every team scrambling to protect players and stuff. But
before we get to your projections, do you want to let everybody know on how we came to predicting this, where we took what did we take to get these numbers?
All right, so I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers where I basically looked at how the Rangers fared against their divisional opponents in a geographically realigned division over the past two seasons, and I gave my best estimate as to what their record would be over a 56-game season playing each of those teams 8 times. And by no means is this mathematically sound. There's no real diving in and logic behind it, just a straight guess. And I tried to go lower because I don't want to be wrong and say they're going to be this high and this great, and then all of a sudden they come out of the gate sputtering. So I tried to be as realistic as possible, and we both did it for the Rangers and Islanders. So I guess I'll kick it off. I predicted that they would go 25, 23, and 8 on the season, which is good for 58 points. Not entirely sure if that will be good enough to get in. I had them going 3-3-2 against the Islanders because that's way too hard to predict what that season's record is going to be like. We've seen it fluctuate throughout the years. I have them going 5-3 against Carolina as well. But then they don't play well against the Flyers, which hurt them. I have them with the losing record against the Bruins. It'll be tough. Capitals, they play well, but how well are they going to play them this year, and especially 8 times? And I think it's going to be interesting. So my safe prediction is 25, 23, and 8.
I mean, I agree, and we didn't talk about this prior. So, Brendan, we had the same record. I had them against the Rangers 3-3-2 as well. So, either we're both dumb or we'll both luck out. But I hope to be lucky. But continue.
I think that the way this division realigns for the Rangers, especially, is you're playing the Flyers, Bruins, Capitals, Canes, and Islanders, who are all regarded as elite teams in the East. Obviously, the Islanders went to the Eastern Conference Final. The Canes are up and coming every single year. They get better. They've been in the playoffs. They've done damage in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. Yeah.
Back playoffs. They swept the Islanders 2 years ago, and they swept the Rangers last year.
That's what I'm saying. So they're a very good team. Now, the Rangers do have their number in the regular season. I don't expect that to fully change just because of a playoff sweep. In fact, the Rangers will be hungrier now. So that could bode well for them. The Flyers, up and coming too. Great regular season last year. The layoff hurt them. The Bruins, we all know what they can do. And the Capitals, still the Capitals. So those are 5 teams. So 5 of the 8 teams are considered elite. Then you have the Rangers who fall in there at 6. Buffalo and the Devils rounded out, who aren't walkovers by any means. So it's going to be really – if the Rangers make the playoffs this year, they're going to earn it.
And I think they will. I mean, again, it's expanded playoffs. So realistically, any team is in it until the end. Because it's all about streaks too. Yep. Sabres, they start off strong and then fall off a cliff. Well, in a season like this, you start off strong. And then there's not a lot of time for you to fall off a cliff. So if you do start off strong, maybe you're not as good as your record says you are, but the Sabres could surprise some people and just go absolutely off for the first, 30 games of the year, be in a great spot, then fall off a little bit, but still making if they made it into expanded playoffs, when was the last time they made the playoffs?
I don't know, but they always have those starts where the first month and a half they're really good. And
that could work. That if they shouldn't change a thing. Just extend the before the drop off just like a week.
Well, if they have a great first 25 games, they're in a good spot now.
They're in a great spot. Look at the Islanders last year, 68 games they played, and they had a 10-game point, 17-game winning streak. Take that away, it is a terrible, mediocre season for them.
Yeah, but that's all you need.
But that is all they needed to get into the playoffs. Yes, fortunate for expanded postseason. If they didn't go on that run, they're not in the playoffs. But they did, and that allotted them a percentage points, the winning percentage, that all kind of stuff, and they got in. So who knows? The Sabres could absolutely do it.
See, now, you know what I would like to see? Because it is regulation and overtime wins as a tiebreaker, which I'm assuming will stay the same. There's no reason to change that. But in a 56-game season, that tiebreaker becomes even more important.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the shootout this year and go to a 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime for a 56-game season, a trial run. That way you have more tiebreakers, right? There's more. Everyone's winning in regulation and overtime, so teams are jumping each other. Let's try it out. 3-on-3 is so exciting. And if nobody scores in 5 minutes, guarantee you they're going to score in the next 5 minutes because it's too much open ice.
Like in baseball, this is the year to do it.
Yep.
And players are going to see. I feel like hockey's a little different though, just because it's a grind. Yes, baseball is usually 162 games. They only played what? How many did they play this year? 50.
Who?
Baseball.
60.
60. So you're cutting your season into a third. This is you have like 20 so less games. I can't do math. It's like 25.
I'm not even going to help you.
Yeah, whatever. Moving on. But no, that would be a great idea. For the Islanders, they have the most shootouts, I think, in history. It was 82 the other day. I forgot if it was wins or total shootouts, but they feel like every other game is a shootout win or a shootout loss. And if it doesn't count as much, and tight race like this, I'd much rather see like head-to-head. But the problem with head-to-head is they're not playing everybody. You're playing only in your division. So,
well, if you base the playoffs this year off division, you can do head-to-head.
I think head-to-head would be fun.
It's the only way to do it then because you're only playing teams in your own division.
No, exactly. So I like that idea, Brandon. Do 3-on-3.
I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I'd back you. Thank you. Let's
Appreciate
get Yes Sports petition going to only do
I love that petition site, whatever it is, change.org or something.
Yeah, it's better than anything for me. But
yeah. Let's hear it. Well, what do you have the Islanders finishing this year? Right. We talked about the Rangers. Let's hear the Islanders. 56
games. I have them at 26, 19, and 11, 63 points. I do think they'll be better than that, but to be safe, take them under that way. If they're over, it's like, yeah, if it's under, it's not good. So the way I broke it down is, they're playing tough team. Boston. Boston has had the Islanders numbers. Over the last 2 years, they have a combined 1-3 and 2 record against them, but they've been outscored 19-7. Like Boston has their number. The biggest insult to injury was Butch Goring jersey retirement into the rafters. The Bruins, they didn't dominate on the scoreboard. I think it was 4-0, but they had the puck 98% of that game. It was just embarrassing, and that's how good Boston is. But they did beat Boston in a shootout. Again, back to the shootout earlier in the year. So I have them against Boston 2-4-2. Against the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3-1. Devils 4-1-2. Rangers though 3-3-2. Flyers are a tough team, but because the Islanders got that seventh win to move on to the Eastern Conference Final, I feel like the Islanders have a little bit of an edge because we have your number. The Flyers want to push that and go, no, just because you won Game 7 means nothing. Anyway, have them 4-3-1. The Caps are still the Caps, but the Islanders have Barry Trotz, and they play them quite well. They know the system. No more Holtby to take advantage of for weak goals. So I have them at 3-3-1 against the Sabres, 6-2. I have them just because they've dominated. They've been 4-1 over the last 2 years. And I just think the Sabres are – I mean, we just talked about how good they could be, but at the end of the day, the Islanders are – most teams in this division are just a lot better than that team. Yes, they have Hall to play with Eichel. That's it. And while that could get them into a postseason potentially expanded, I still think the Islanders will have their number. So, yes, 26, 19, and 11. That's 63 points. And we'll see where it goes from there. But that's my basis. I think they could be better. I think they could play better against some of those teams. But at the end of the day,
there we go. There's one. I was prepared for it this time.
Last week it was me, Brendan. This week it was you. Usually you click the un button, it stops ringing.
There we go.
Magic.
Took care of that.
Magic. But anyway, yeah, that's where I have them. So I guess we'll get to some projections. This episode we're going to talk about.
Before we go to the player projections, the spread that we have between the Rangers and Islanders is a 5-point difference in favor of the Islanders, right? Say that holds true. Mm-hmm. The Rangers and Islanders play each other 8 times. Do you know how exciting the last 3 meetings are going to be if there's a 4-point difference and they play each other 3 times over the last 2 weeks?
We're not going to talk to each other. It's going to be brutal. We'll be doing the show that Tuesday. Let's say there's a game. Let's say there's a game that Monday night, right? Say the Rangers win. I'm just going to be on the screen it's like this. I might turn my screen off.
I mean, but just every division is going to have matchups like that where a team could change the whole entire dynamics of the standings just by beating whoever's in front of them. Because it's not like the last week, the Rangers last season could have been on the West Coast playing teams that don't really matter. And if the Islanders were getting and taking care of their business, Rangers going to catch them. Now, I mean, say the Rangers go 3-0 over those last 3 games, you flop your spots. To me, if you're going to have a 56-game season, I know COVID stinks and everything about it's awful, but geographic realignment with all these rivalries couldn't do anything. All it's going to do is raise viewership through the roof. That's it.
I think it raises. The Islanders usually aren't on national TV, right? But now they're playing Boston. Boston in the division. The Islanders Boston might be on national television. Rangers Islanders, some of those
better
games be on national television. I think they've gotten better at that. As the Islanders have gotten better, it's made more sense financially for them to be on TV.
National television, Brendan Burke announcing.
Brendan Burke with who's the Rangers?
Joe Micheletti.
Joe Micheletti. They usually did that during the playoffs? They did that?
Yeah, listen, I love Sam Rosen, but Brendan Burke is very good at announcing. I just love how enthusiastic he is, how calm he is. Awesome. Very good broadcaster.
Fan favorite. I love him. He's an awesome guy, too. And he supports local communities like Blue Line Deli. He's always in there. He's got his own sandwich. It's great. But no, you're 100% right that it can come down to a Ranger-Islander game at the end of the season to determine who's in and who's out. And, oh, boy, it's just going to be fun 8 times. They get to play them 8 times. And I don't care who wins a season series. It's going to feel like a playoff game each and every game. And maybe they play each other in the playoffs. You don't know.
Never know.
So let's go. So this episode, we decided, we're going to break down the Islanders and Rangers roster, and we're going to start with center position with projections. So, Brendan, I'll let you go first, but you're going to predict the stats for each centerman on this team 1 through 4.
Correct. So, obviously, first is Mika Zibanejad. We all know what he did in 2019-20 with 75 points and 41 goals in 57 games. And I actually did a tiny bit of math on this one. So, I took his goals, I think it was 0.71 goals per game last season. I rounded it to 0.70, and I got around 39. So I'm going to say he does a similar pace just because I feel like the elite goal scorers such as Ovechkin and those guys score at that pace continuously. And the way he played last season gives me no reason why. He only played 57 games. So he's basically played a full season this year. He scored 41. So I'll knock it down by 2, give him 39 goals, 30 assists, 69 points. He might miss a couple of games with injury. That might fluctuate, but there's no reason he shouldn't get over 30 goals next season. Ryan Strome had 59 points in 70 games. I knocked him down to 48 points in 56. He's still playing with Panarin, so he'll still get his fair share of assists. Philip Edel had 14 goals and 9 assists in 60 games played. I have him with 16 goals, 20 assists, and 36 points, so a 13-point increase next season. Playing with Alexei Lafreniere should help him out there. And Brett Howden, 9 goals, 10 assists, and 19 points in 70 games. I have him with 5 goals, 6 assists, and 11 points. His minutes are going to be way down with the amount of talent the Rangers have in their top 9. And really, all the fourth line has to do is be solid defensively for New York Rangers. They don't have to contribute a lot offensively. So I think he's not going to have a big offensive year.
I'm interested to see what happens with Zibanejad because to me, 39 goals is a bit high given the fact that was a career year. Like he had an unbelievable season, and
he has trended that way every year.
I completely agree, but I think last year was more of he put his team on his back type of thing where he's got a little more weapons coming back this year, which we'll get into Kreider in a little bit, but you also have Lafreniere, other guys that he doesn't have to – I mean, he has Panarin, so he didn't have to dominate anyway, but at the same time, it just seemed like he played hero a lot, like a game against the Caps when he scored, 5?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen again. Like, you're not going to see –
He probably won't score 5 in a game. No, I mean, that's hard to do.
That magnitude of putting the team on the back is something you want to see if you're a Ranger, but it's not a necessity like it may have been last year.
The one thing I will say about him is that the types of goals he scores are very attainable. It's not like last year his shooting percentage was so high that it's not going to happen again. He lines up on the left on the power play in that Ovechkin spot, and he has a great shot, and he scores there. He has the ability to – I've never seen somebody personally better in-game breakaways than Zibanejad is. He has 3 or 4 moves that he uses, and it's the same. It's either a forehand shot or a backhand deke, but he does different variations, and it works. So it's an attainable pace that he's on, and he is playing with Kreider and Buchnevich, they have phenomenal chemistry together. So is 39 a little bit high in a 56-game season, especially in a projection? Yes. But based on what I've seen over the last 2 years and his growth and development, there's no reason for me to think he won't continue to get in that direction and trend better.
No, I mean, that's a fair assessment. You watch them a lot closer than I do, but let's get the Islanders, and it's a little more interesting given the fact that you had a guy like Pajot, which we'll get to in a second, but he was on a very offensive-driven Ottawa team. He joins the Islanders and is in a defensive system, so it definitely impacted the calculator skills for me. So we'll see what happens. But for Barzal, last year 19 goals, 41 assists. He had 60 points in 68 games. This year I got him at 15 goals, 36 assists, 51 points, and it's going to come down to him shooting more, and it's going to come down to his line mates finishing. Eberle in the playoffs, we all know he just could not finish to save his life. Now, if he finishes that during the regular season, he'll probably have more. He probably would have had more than 60 points last year, and he could have more than 53. He could be a point-per-game player this year. There is no reason he shouldn't be. Let's see if they add a high-caliber weapon. I'm not sure they will at this point, unless a guy like Hoffman takes a one-year deal, but they don't have that much money anyway, and he's not signed yet. For Brock Nelson, last year, 26 goals, 28 assists, 54 points in 68 games. This year, I got him with 22 goals, 23 assists, so that's 45 points in 56 games. He's a very streaky player, and again, in a shortened season. A streaky player, if he's hot, could make or break his stat sheet, and if he's really slow out of the gate and struggles and doesn't get the really chance to turn it up, his stats are going to suffer. But his line with Villiers and Josh Bailey was clicking during the regular season. It clicked in the playoffs. I see it carrying over, so I think he's going to have another good year. Pajot is the interesting one because he only played in 7 games with the Islanders before the playoffs began. He had 2 goals, no assists. So, doing all the math that I did like you did, it was tough. So for me, he had 26 goals last year, career high, 16 assists, 42 points in 67 games. So for this, I put him at playing in only 50 games of 56 because throughout his career, he has never played really a full season. So I took that into consideration. I have him at 50 games this year, and I have 34 points, 16 goals, 18 assists. While that's not a huge drop-off, I don't think he'll be scoring as much given his third-line role. It's going to be a little different, but Trotz loves to roll all 4 lines. You could see an uptick in his goals. I just think 16 is a safe bet. And Casey Zizekas, who was hurt all year, he's been hurt year after year, doesn't play a full year. I got him at only 48 games out of 56. He had 10 goals, 4 assists last year in 48 games. This year, I got him back at 10 goals because he was scoring. In 48 games, he had 10 goals. He was scoring. I have 5 assists and 1 more assist higher for 15 points in 48 games played. It also matters if Matt Martin comes back, which I think he will. But all in all, the Islanders have great center depth. And it doesn't matter if Pajot is not scoring 25-plus goals. It doesn't matter. He's in a new role that just makes him that much deeper if he does a little thing. He's penalty kill. Even on the power play in some chances. This center depth is good, and the scoring's not going to have to just come from them. Anders Lee's going to have to score. Streaky players. Villiers is another streaky player. He's going to have to score. What's happening with the third line? Is it going to be a Wallstrom? Is Brassard coming back? Is Dal Cole going to take a next step? All that impacts these guys on the stat sheet. But all in all, I'm happy with my projections, and maybe they shatter it, maybe they don't. But all in all, I think it's fair.
Yeah, they are definitely very fair. And the one thing I'll say is that the Rangers are extraordinarily dependent on these guys scoring, right? In order for them to have success and make the postseason, these centers and offense in general is going to have to contribute at the same rate they did last year, or else it's going to be a no-show for them in the postseason. For the Islanders, these guys have to score 2.5, 3 goals a game, and their defense will carry, the goaltending will carry the rest of the way. So two completely different styles, and that's why when they do play, the games are so competitive, because you have one team that's going to push and push and push, and the other team is going to sit back and counteract that. And it's awesome to watch, especially when they play, but the difference in styles and how both teams are trending in the right direction and having some success in this league. It
just goes to show that, they say defense wins championship, right? And we saw with the Rangers how they got swept because, they're an offensively talented team, and the defense failed them at times in the playoffs. But you could still win with offense.
Yep.
You could still win with offense. You just have to score more goals than you allow. Yep. And it comes down to, can your offense show up? For the Islanders, it was defense the whole entire year. Their offense was dry at so many crucial times that could have, if their offense was even respectable, they would have made the playoffs probably without needing the expanded postseason. But it wasn't. But fortunately for them, their offense turned it up in the playoffs when it matters the most, and they went on a great run, falling 2 games shy of a Stanley Cup final. So, it goes both ways, but it's going to be fun when these teams play. Projections look great on both ends. Let's do some over-unders, Brendan, before we cut to and then have our nice interview. So, over-under 35 starts for Shesterkin.
So I'm going to go over, but this is tough because they're playing 56 games. So I don't think it's going to be far over. I think Shesterkin gets 36, 37 starts, and Georgiev gets 20, 19, 20, that range, 21 maybe. So it might be at 35 or slightly higher. They are going to let Georgiev play. But in a 56-game season, if Shesterkin gets on a run like he did last year, he's going to see that workload. So I'm going to lean over, but not by a lot.
Stole the words right out of my mouth. For me, the Rangers' success is, yes, their offense, their defense, playing better, but it's Shesterkin's show. It's Shesterkin's show. Yes, Georgiev is a good backup, and they're going to split, but if he gets on a run like he did last year before the car accident, where he's just dominant, in a shortened season, every win's much more important, every game's much more important, you got to ride the hot hand. So I think I'll take the over, and I'll be confident with the over.
Yeah, listen, and now the opposite to that is definitely true as well, because if he doesn't look great and Georgiev does,
the chance, exactly.
They'll very easily hand it to him. They like Georgiev a lot, as they should. The last 2 years, he's been holding the fort down on some of the worst defensive structures I've ever seen. So he will earn his spot. The one thing that the Rangers always had going for them was that they had Lundqvist playing so well, and that every backup that came to the league, he would push them to get better. So when he got hurt, like a Ronk or a Talbot stepped in and looked phenomenal. And now the same thing's coming true because Shesterkin's so good and Georgiev's really good as well. They're battling for this, and it's going to make each other extremely better in that.
All right, so let me ask you another one. Over under 30 starts for Varlamov.
So another tough one because they're in a similar boat. I'm going to say over for Varlamov. And the only reason I'm going to say that is because I saw what Shesterkin had to do to adjust, and he went to the AHL first. And I think that Sorokin is going to start in the NHL. He's going to be in the NHL. But it might not be the worst thing for him to play a little more sporadically at first. Like, keep a rhythm, but not every day. Varlamov proved last season that he's more than capable of handling this job, especially for a defensive first team and the Islanders. And just ease him into that role, and then the second half of the season, give it to him. So if they do it that way, I don't necessarily know if he'll pass Varlamov in starts, which means over 30 for Semyon Varlamov.
See, I'll take the under, but I think it's going to be close. I just think, there's a lot of hype with Sorokin, but I really think that he's the real deal. And different to Shesterkin is that Sorokin's been practicing against NHL caliber players in the bubble. He got that experience. Well, that's not game action, obviously. He got some valuable experience. Training camp, maybe they get that preseason game in if they have one this year. I expect Varlamov to start as a starter, obviously work his way until Sorokin. Once Sorokin feels comfortable enough and he's showing in his play that, all right, he's legit and he can handle this, he'll take the reins. But, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the under for 30 starts, but I wouldn't be shocked if Sorokin starts off slow and is getting acclimated, that they just let Varlamov ride it, like you said, so it truly matters. Or it really depends on the standings. It depends on the standings, but for right now, I'll take the under.
Well, you said it best. If Sorokin proves early on that he's ready to take the reins, they'll give it to him. So it's all about when he's ready. I feel like in a 56-game season, if it takes a month and a half for him to be everyday starter, the 30 starts is in reach for Varlamov because they're going to have to spell him every once in a while over that. So if he already has 16, 17 starts, odds are he's going to get there. listen, it's a great problem to have. I know Shesterkin's first appearance on North American ice was Traverse City. We watched him get lit up in that tournament, especially in the first 2 games. And he went to the AHL, put out great numbers. It didn't take him long to adjust. It won't take Sorokin long to adjust, but you might as well give him that chance to adjust because you have that leeway with Varlamov there. When we come back from this commercial break, Natalina Focarelli will join us for an interview, writer for Forever Blueshirts. Don't miss that, especially if you're a Rangers fan, so stay with us.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back to the BS Sports Show, everybody. Brendan and Stefan here with you, and now we have a very special guest joining us.
Joining us now is Natalina Focarelli of Forever Blueshirts.
Hi, guys.
Here today.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, Brendan, kick it off.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And I read your goodbye letter to Henrik Lundqvist, and it was a great piece. And I feel like all Rangers fans could agree with that. So what did he mean to not only you as a fan, but to all Rangers and Rangers hockey?
Oh, well, thank you. I think it was definitely my favorite piece to write, but it was definitely the hardest. Just as I kind of said in the letter to him, he pretty much was Rangers hockey. I don't remember a team without him. I don't think a lot of us younger fans really know a team without him. And he really just was New York City. He was Rangers hockey. He did a lot for the city too, right? He started his own, his different things for children, his different charities. He worked really closely with the Rangers organization and their charity. So I just think, he was just seeing him out there in between the net, you just felt like you always had a chance that day. And no matter what the game was, no matter what was going on, he always showed up for us. So we're definitely going to miss him. It's going to be weird without him.
Yeah, definitely. He was just as impactful off the ice as he was on it. So really a pillar in the community for a long time, but all good things must come to an end. And now we move on to the future. But do you think another uniquely structured NHL season, obviously it's going to be 56 games, would stunt the growth of the Rangers' younger players such as Lafreniere, Kakko, and Edel?
Well, I think the Rangers are set up really for such an exciting next, even 10 years from now. We have so many young guys coming in, and then getting Lafreniere was just kind of the icing on the cake for us. I don't think it'll stunt their growth really in any way. I mean, if you watched the Rangers in the bubble, I remember tweeting out that our best player was Kakko. He was kind of coming into his own by then. And I think with guys like Zibanejad and the presence of Panarin and keeping Kreider was so important just because, the organization knew that we were going to have so many young guys coming in, and there's still so many even coming in. And Shesterkin's just, dipping his feet in after his first season. So I don't think it'll necessarily stunt their growth, hopefully. I think it'll be a challenge for them. But I think in the end, it'll be our veteran presence that kind of moves them along and helps them get situated with everything.
I wanted to say before you asked your last question, Brendan, is that my letter to Tavares is a bit different than your letter to Lundqvist. But anyway, we'll move on. Jesper Fast was a fan favorite. He was a guy that did the little things every single night for this Ranger team. Now he's on Carolina. Which Ranger do you think has the skill set to take over that role?
Well, I think first, Rangers fans, we have had a really rough 3 years, just losing guys left and right. I remember it was Zuccarello. I remember getting that, that tweet, that update on my phone and being in tears, and my whole family, we lost somebody in our family. So it's hard with any of them, just like with Fost and letting him go. But I think the guy has to be Brendan Lemieux. He was suspended going into the bubble, and it really, you could see that it hurt, our team. And getting him back was huge. And I think that he just does all the little things every night. He is ready to fight anybody. He's an instigator. He's a rough guy, but he's also got a lot of skill, just like Fost. Fost did all the gritty work, but he was also a really skilled guy. And he was just a guy that everyone, I feel looked to, and he could make that big play when they needed it. And I think that's going to be Lemieux for us. So I'm really happy that we kept him.
Brian, would you have to agree on that?
I would. I think that he's poised to take that step. And like she said, he's the guy that's going to instigate, and they missed his physical presence watching Jesper Fast get knocked around in that opening minute and then Carolina going down scoring. If they had him on the bench, he would have came out the next shift and set the tone and said, you're not going to be able to do this all the time. So he definitely has to fill that void.
You would have fought somebody right on the spot, probably. Next, so, there were rumors last year that Georgiev would get dealt. They had a 3-goalie system with Lundqvist. Obviously, they weren't going to move Lundqvist. And, this year, now you have a young tandem in Shesterkin and Georgiev. Do you think if he does play well that they'll move him? Or do you think that smart decision would be to keep him around for as many years as possible?
I think it's interesting because for so long, the goalie position was kind of out of the question because we always had Lundqvist. So we never really had to worry about it. We always knew there were guys, in the background ready to come up. And we were always talking about when's Shesterkin going to come over? When's he going to come over? And then he finally did. And he has been so far everything that he's, has been hyped up to be. I've been saying for, the past year, I've been getting into little arguments with some friends on Twitter and stuff about Georgiev because I just think that for me, I love the guy. I think that he's, proven that he can be in that goalie tandem with Shesterkin and he can be that second guy when they need him to be. He really played incredible, I think, this past year. He won us some really great games. He had some shutouts that were really important. And I think that, with guys like Tyler Wall and all the goalie prospects that we have, I think it's easy to get, to look into the future and want something new. And we're always wanting that new guy, that younger guy, whoever it might be. But I think it'll be interesting, of course, to see how he plays in this role, not having Lundqvist anymore there. But I think, for me, he really impresses me. And I would be happy to have him, him and Shesterkin for a long time. I feel like with the Islanders, they're showing how a goalie tandem has been, kind of that new trend that's happening in the NHL. And I think that regardless if it's Georgiev and Shesterkin or one of our younger guys in Shesterkin, I think we'll be set up for a really long time. And Rangers fans kind of need to just bask in that a little bit, and not worry too much about it. And remember that it's a good problem to have right now, the situation that we're in with our goalies.
Yeah, I mean, to hear you guys, this is a problem you guys, the Ranger fans have and the Rangers have. Oh, we're moving on from Lundqvist to another superstar guy. The Rangers couldn't get anyone to stop a puck for years. And they couldn't get one guy, let alone two. And now, yeah, I think Ranger fans can take a nice breath because they could look at how bad it could actually be, and they're okay.
Well, then if they have one that they thought was going to be really good, gave him this really long contract that didn't pan out.
Humpty Dumpty.
The name's slipping from my head, yeah.
Humpty Dumpty. You know how funny it is, though, to have your own radio show calling yourself Humpty Dumpty to make fun of You have to, at that point in your career, he made so much money, you have to laugh at it. But no, the Rangers are pretty set. The last question, though, so Zibanejad scored 41 goals last year. And do you think that could be attributed to Kreider missing some time? I know Kreider was in the lineup more often than he wasn't, but do you think that contributes? And do you think with Kreider back that you'll see Zibanejad rack up more assists than he did last year?
Well, I'm really happy that, Zibanejad is starting to get recognition from, the NHL, and he's starting to, be recognized as one of the top centers in the game, because I really think that he is. I think he had a breakout year this year with Panarin, and even with Kreider not there, I think, of course, that did play a role in it because, he was more of that playmaking guy. And this year he really took on that goal scoring, especially, that big game where he had the crazy, 5 goals. And I mean, that was just a crazy all around experience for all of us Rangers fans. But I think, his role might adjust a little bit. Hopefully we can see a captain, a C on his chest at some point. That's what I'm hoping for. But I think regardless of whatever role he plays in, I think he's going to score a lot for us. I think he's just always, in the right spot at the right time, getting himself open, making plays, and finding the back of the net. So I think maybe, his production goal scoring wise might be a little bit affected with Kreider in the lineup more steadily. But I think regardless, he's going to continue to have an impact on this team.
You mentioned captaincy. Do you think Zibanejad should get it, or do you have somebody else in mind?
I think the debate right now between Rangers fans is Kreider or Zibanejad. Kreider, I was a huge proponent of giving Kreider another contract, so I'm really happy that we kept him. I think that his presence and his style of play, you just don't see Kreiders in the league everywhere, and it's important to hold on to one when you do get one. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards Zibanejad. I don't know what really the preference is. I think if you polled Rangers fans, it would be a really close split. But I just think that the way that Zibanejad carries himself and the way that he just lifts, everyone around him. And I think that the younger guys really respect him, but as well as Kreider. So, you could kind of say the same for both of them. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, I don't know if we'll do it this year because it's going to be an interesting year with hopefully the 56 games starting soon. But, I think it could be a toss-up between either one.
Brendan,
Yeah, Rangers fans are definitely split because I'm on the Kreider bandwagon. I think
you?
it should be him. I just how long he's been there, everything he's done for the franchise. I feel like he gets along with everybody. But so does the Zibanejad, though. You can't go wrong, which is a good problem to have.
him captain, though, they have to trade him to the Lightning in a couple of years.
No, don't say that. Callahan, that ripped my heart out.
Well, Callahan,
Like she felt for Zuccarello. That's how I felt for Callahan.
then McDonough.
It's really, I don't know what it is about. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but and then you have like a guy like Panarin too, who if he was there a little bit longer, he'd automatically be in the captaincy and race. So it's interesting to see where they are because they have so many young guys. I think the Rangers are like the youngest team, like average wise in the league, or one of. So it's just interesting because then you have these big presence, these big names like Panarin and Kreider and Zibanejad. So it'll be interesting.
Would both
Definitely will be
shocked if they don't name a captain?
I think, if anyone ordered jerseys with this and put the C on it, those people might be a little bit upset about it. I'm ordering a Strome jersey. I don't know. He's my favorite.
Put the C.
Yeah, Strome is my favorite guy. I don't know
really.
why, but I know people ask me why. They're like, Strome, like there's all these big names, and I'm like, I just love him. I think it's always been because every time I've defended him, I've gone out and defended his play, or I've gone out and defended giving him another contract. He's always pulled through. He's always come through with a big game like that game. And I'll be like, see, told you. I remember tweeting out like one time, I was like, I think Strome like goes on my Twitter and he looks at it because every time I defend him against somebody, he like comes out and has some massive big game for us. And I'm just like, yeah, he has my back. He knows. So.
Well, keep tweeting it then because we need him to perform at a high level next season. So one thing before we let you go, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Playoffs or no playoffs for the Rangers next season?
I'm going playoffs.
All right, I like the optimism.
Yeah.
I'm hoping so too.
I think with that breakdown, I know it's going to look a little different, that our like division, whatever that is, the USA division is like so competitive. Like I always feel like that's like the craziest, division to be in with just like all those heavy hitting teams. But I don't know. I have a good feeling about it. I remember seeing a tweet. Someone said something about Rangers winning a cup around like 2025. And I was like, I can get behind that.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
I think I replied to that. I saw it too. And I was like, hey, 2025 is not too far away. I'm in support of that theory.
Yeah. So I hope so, but I think playoffs.
Yeah, I really hope so. And I think if it's another expanded postseason, then they will be in it. But like you said, that division is they're unfortunate they're placed there, and the teams in the West are probably licking their lips that they're not. But Natalina, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
No problem. Have a good one.
All right. So, great interview there. Natalina Focarelli from Forever Blueshirts. We really appreciate her coming on, and a lot of good talking points because the Rangers and Islanders are in that division, which honestly, when you look at how the rest of them stack up, there's all the talk about the all-Canadian division because that's just awesome for that country and for the sport. But this one is really the division of death.
It is a division of death. I just want to give her a shout out on Twitter. You could follow her at Natalina, BREA, capital N, capital I, capital R, for great coverage, great writer, and she had great insight too. And you can put her on the spot. And of course, she's playoffs. There's no reason the Rangers shouldn't. It just their biggest question mark is not how good their defense is; it's how good can their defense become. Because again, they're young. They're you could say that's their weakness, but they're not bad on defense. I just wrote an article about this. And it's not a bad defensive group. They didn't play great last year, but you had Adam Fox and Lindgren, very, very young guys playing in the top unit. And they played quite well. It wasn't even them. It was more, Mark Stahl was definitely showing his age and that he couldn't really handle it. Smith he's questionable NHL player on defense at times. So I think this year you'll see a much better defensive team, and you have the goaltending and you have the offense. So the last piece you need to actually compete for the Stanley Cup is that defense. The question is, once the defense picks it up, is it going to be too late for that offense? And that's the problem every team has, is you have to have all of your units firing in all cylinders, and that's the hardest thing to do at the NHL level.
Well, rumor has it Brendan Smith is playing defense this year without a stick because in the 5 seconds that he didn't have a stick against Carolina, he wound up laying out Andrei Svechnikov and playing the best defensive shift of his season. So I think that, honestly, when I played youth hockey, right, one of the drills we used to do as a defenseman was you turn your stick upside down and you play 3 1-on-1s. And that's teaching you, don't worry about poke checking the puck, take the body.
Yeah.
Smith has to get back to that fundamental basic of just He's a big boy. Take the body, use your body well. And I don't like to get tough on Smith because the Rangers kind of put him up the forward, put him back. They're throwing him all over the place. This year, he's going to come into the season knowing he's playing defense. He knows he's going to be on that left side, barring any last-minute changes, any injuries, stuff like that. He's going to get back into that groove because when they first got him from Detroit, he was really good defensively for them in that playoff run. So if they don't need that good of a Brendan Smith, you can't expect that. But if he can get to 75% of what he was and just be a solid defender, they'll take that, and it'll definitely help their defense.
Well, use Natalina's, thing that she does. Tweet at Brendan Smith about how good he's going to be and just see what happens.
Well, best first name in the league, first of all.
Brendan?
Yeah.
A little biased.
No bias at all. He's just a great first name.
Yeah, but not a. I think you might be a better defenseman at times.
No. No. Not with my knees.
When you brought up DiPietro, and then I said Humpty Dumpty out loud. I could not. I was laughing inside my head for the next one.
You're like a little kid.
No, because it's hysterical. It's like, yes, I have a deviated septum, guys.
Well, first of all, it's a genius.
That's my nickname. Deviated at times because I have a broken nose. It's just you have to at times you have to just go with it. The fact that he had an ESPN show, or it was the Blank and Humpty show, whatever it was.
It was Alan Hahn, right?
Yeah, Alan Hahn and Humpty. I mean, that's great. And he's he still follows the Islanders. He loves the team, which it's got to be tough at times.
Why wouldn't he? They made his life.
Yeah, but the amount of BS, Brendan, that he took as a player, and then after he was hurt, it's not like he didn't want to play. It's just his body kept failing him, and sometimes he just can't come back from that. He was so good.
Now, would you rather be that highly touted, right? Mm-hmm. Sign that big of a contract and underperform, or be a what if of what happens if he wasn't healthy? Because I feel like I'd rather personally play and underperform and know that I didn't have what it takes and have people know it didn't have what it takes than be like, oh, maybe he could have gotten to that point had he not. Because that's got to bug you as a player. Yeah, we talk about players that don't win cups.
Not that question.
What happened?
Ask his bank account that question.
Well,
obviously, highly touted
financially, no, but you got to understand that he wants to play. He didn't want to be hurt. And now fans are saying, oh, this guy was such a bust because he never played. He could have been so good. I'd rather it takes something out of you when you go, I had this potential and just gone because of injury. Like those people that almost make the league and almost make the pros and get hurt. It's like the what if, and that's bothers you.
Yeah, let me ask you something. You're a high school athlete, right? We hear the story all the time. High school athlete, top prospect, gets hurt, done.
Yep.
Do you ever hear of kids brag that weren't good enough that did it, or you always hear the kids brag that they were highly touted prospects that failed?
Well, everyone tells people that they were highly touted high school athletes that got hurt.
Not me. I just got hurt.
Listen, I don't know. Would I take his career in a heartbeat? Sure.
He got to play NHL level hockey. He played great all the way up until he started getting hurt. I mean, he was the next coming up Brodeur. That's what people were saying. This was the next Patrick Waugh. And unfortunately for him, it just didn't work out.
It didn't, but very rarely do goalies pick that high workout.
No, completely agree. And we got to go to commercial, Brendan. So.
All right. So when we come back from this commercial, we're going to jump into our speed skate. We're going to do a Crosby versus Nathan McKinnon debate, which is very intriguing, actually. And then we're going to talk about the outdoor NHL games possibility, which the NHL has floated around due to COVID-19 just to get fans in attendance. And then we're going to go over this day in hockey history, a little NHL rewind as well. So you don't want to go anywhere. Stay with us. And remember, at 6:45, the phone lines open up.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back to the BS Sports Show, everybody. Brendan and Stefan here. And before we get into the speed skate, I want to touch on what's going on with the World Junior Championships and Team Sweden. 4 people, members of that team, not necessarily just players, are deemed ineligible to join Sweden at the World Junior Championships. The latest is their head coach, who now cannot make it after one of their assistant coaches already tested positive. And another member of that small group of positive cases is Rangers prospect Carl Henriksson, who was looking forward to, having a big World Juniors tournament and putting his name even more on the map for Rangers fans that might not be as familiar with the European prospects. He has been pretty good over there in Sweden, but he will miss the World Junior Championships because of COVID-19. Just another level to 2020 where you're like, wow, all these kids that are vying for that spot, and even the kids that are now going there and playing for Team Sweden, without a head coach and an assistant coach. It's basically a new coaching staff now that you're learning 2 weeks before the tournament.
I mean, they call it a tournament where you represent your country, but it's advertising. It's marketing. It's showing what you have before you go to training camp. Some guys might not be on the list for training camp, have phenomenal World Juniors, and the team goes, oh, they should be at training camp, and they come. So it's very unfortunate for a guy looking to, get an opportunity there.
It really is. And I mean, the quality of the tournament won't change. Sweden is one of the powerhouses of the hockey world, and they probably will still be competitive, but it does give the few teams that can manage to keep their teams intact and stay healthy an advantage in this World Junior Championships.
I mean, it showed they're not going out and doing stupid stuff. Obviously, what's happening in Sweden, I don't think is that. I think hockey players as a whole are much more of a team, and I don't think they would do anything to jeopardize that. It's the nature of the beast. It's a virus. You can get it anytime, anywhere. And hopefully they all get through it. Health is the most important, so you can care less about hockey right now. Hopefully all the players that have it get through it okay. They don't really pass it over, and everything's good soon.
Yeah, I mean, they probably had one player come unknowingly positive, and whoever he came into close contact with, I mean, that's just been the nature of this beast throughout every level of sports and society. It's the unknown behind it. But let's move on to the speed skate. And I believe that me and you are under the impression that Connor McDavid is the consensus number 1 player in the National Hockey League at this moment. I don't think there's anybody more skilled than him in the league right now. Maybe Crosby, maybe McKinnon, the 2 people we'll talk about now. But the way that McDavid just maneuvers around that puck, how successful he's been in his short time in the league already, with what still is to come, barring any more of these devastating injuries that he's had to his lower body, his speed is unreal and unmatched. So the battle for the number 2, right, the second best player in the league, I think, is between Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon. And granted, you can't go wrong. If you're drafting and you're in the top 3 and you take one of those 3 players, you're going to be very happy with where you stand. But Crosby or McKinnon? So before we dive into the stats, which one do you think is better right now?
Like you just set up, though, if you were going to do a draft, right, you're probably taking McKinnon given his age. That's probably how you would go about it. But
although Crosby isn't necessarily that old.
He's not that old, but he's got years on him and quote-unquote wear and tear, which we haven't seen yet. I mean, the concussions are one thing. So is McKinnon's been hurt too. But if I had to choose one, either Crosby or McKinnon, it is tough, but I would probably take Crosby. McKinnon is an unreal talent, but I feel like the vision for Crosby is just on another level. I mean, yes, McKinnon could score goals, pick up the assists. I just think Crosby has a little edge on the vision. You see Crosby make some unreal passes that I don't even think McDavid's making, or Pavelski, or Thornton, like guys like that, Panarin even. I think Crosby's on another level when it comes to the way he gets rid of the puck. It's so what's it called? Not secretive, but he makes passes that no one's expecting. The fans at home, the defense in front of him, where it's like, how do you even think to do that, let alone do it? He thought in his head, this is the smart play to do, and does it. I think that puts him ahead of McKinnon.
So I was really battling this because my initial instinct was Crosby.
Okay.
What happened?
The battle, though? You're okay? You got over it?
Oh, no, I won the battle. It was me versus my mind, and I conquered it. But I think that my gut says go Crosby. But then I look at it, and I'm thinking about right now. Career-wise, Crosby's obviously had the better career, championships, player performances, points per game, all in his favor. Right now, Crosby's been battling some injuries, and I think that McKinnon started off a little bit slower than McDavid and Crosby did in his career, but over the last 2 years has skyrocketed. And if he continues on this trajectory, come next year, he's going to be a better player than Sidney Crosby in this league. So I'm going to take Nathan McKinnon. Yeah, I think that right now he's on the way to be a better player, so I'm going to take McKinnon. And when I look at the stats last year, having 58 assists, you don't necessarily think of McKinnon as an assist guy. Like, you think of Crosby, amazing vision. When you think of McKinnon, you think of amazing shot. And for him to have that total of assists plus the 35 goals, I just think he is in such a good situation in Colorado. I think his numbers are going to keep going up. Obviously, not this year because of 56 games, but he, to me, is unreal. I've never seen a player move so fast and never stop their hands from moving. Usually, even McDavid, when he's in open ice and he's stick handling, he eventually goes and pushes the puck or protects the puck. McKinnon's always just moving his wrists, and I've never seen somebody with that amount of hand speed to match that amount of foot speed. It's so rare. It is so rare.
When he crosses the blue line, you have a split second to decide how you're going to defend him, because if you choose the wrong one, he's behind you. And it's not even that he has sick hands, yes. Like his release off his wrist shot, it's like Austin Matthews. It's just so quick and decisive that he doesn't hold on to it too long. Like a Brock Nelson on the Islanders, phenomenal wrist shot. Yep. But he holds on to the puck for like 2 seconds too long, and that either leads to hitting missing the net, or it's getting picked off and deflected or blocked. Like McKinnon gets the pass, comes over the blue line, shot. Like there's no hesitation in his play, which is why he's so dangerous. But looking at the stats, and Crosby this year, he only played in 41 games. He had 47 points in 41 games, 16 goals, 31 assists. McKinnon, like you said, 35 goals, 58 assists, 93 points in 69 games. That's a phenomenal year. Now, I'm not going to look at Crosby and go, I'm basing it off this, because Crosby's scoring more than 20 goals if he's healthy. And if he's healthy, playing a full year. I don't know if he gets to as high, though, in the assist category as McKinnon does. And it's interesting, too, about we love to talk about the player and love to talk about what team they're on. And for a while, Crosby, there wasn't that many weapons. Yes, they have Malkin. Gensel is great. But it was more that Crosby makes those guys that good. Like a Patrick Hornquist playing on the top line. He's not a dynamic player, but you look at over in Colorado, and he's got guys that just Rantanen and finishes. Landeskog, even if he doesn't get a lot of attention on that line, because that line is phenomenal, and he might be the third guy in that line when you think of scoring. Great player as well, and for Crosby, he makes the players around him great. I feel like Crosby and McDavid are in that similar conversation, because it's how good they make other people. Yes, McKinnon look at the assists he had. He clearly helped his teammates around him, but I don't think his teammates need as much help as guys like, Cassian. Cassian without McDavid's not a guy making significant amount of money. Crosby makes a guy like Hornquist look amazing. Gensel's very good. Streaky guy, very good. But I think Crosby and McDavid are in another conversation in that regard. But I agree with what you're saying. Right now, McKinnon's in his prime. He might have a step higher he can get to, let alone he has had injuries as well. He had injuries before the playoffs this year? He did, right?
He missed a couple of games.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but a couple.
Not a lot. So can McKinnon be as good as Crosby over a long-term career? Probably not. But right now, I could see why you're saying I would take McKinnon right now. But Crosby's one of those guys, though, I think until he retires, it's Crosby. It's not a downgraded Crosby. It's Sidney Crosby. The same way if McDavid stays healthy, it's never going to be, he's not the same. No, it's Connor McDavid for the whole – you're going to get Connor McDavid.
Yeah, they're those two, and maybe even McKinnon, and maybe you have to see how his career pans out, are players that aren't the best in the NHL right now. They're the best in the NHL all time. Like, that's the conversation they're going to be in. Yeah. For McKinnon, and I think if you put him in a situation with a Cassian or a Hornquist, I still think he makes them better. Like, I think that maybe he won't achieve the same amount of success at helping others as those two players do, but they will definitely benefit from playing with Nathan McKinnon, without a doubt. And when I think about how great he is, the thing that comes to my mind every time is when he crossed up, I think it was Jared Spurgeon in that playoff game.
They play the Wild all the time.
It was a playoff game. He made an inside move, went outside, crossed him up, and took a wrist shot and scored.
Spurgeon's a great defender, too.
And the reason that sticks out to me is it might not have been Spurgeon. I know it was a Wild defenseman. But when I think about that move, the cross up, phenomenal. But he was moving so fast that when he crossed up the defender, he had one leg fly into the air. He crossed himself up too, and then he was able to maintain his balance and poise to get that leg down, shoot while he got the leg down. Goalie had no time to move.
That's the thing. Goalies have no time to move. When you hold on to the puck, it might seem like a millisecond watching on TV. But as a goalie, yes, I'm not moving nearly as fast. But you get that extra split second to read a play and either stick your glove or pad out. That's make or break for you making that save. For him, he doesn't give that goalie a chance to even have a second in his head to go, what am I doing? It's just too late. It's in the back of the net by the time you have the time to think about that.
Yeah, it's never a straight release either. Yeah. If you're sitting there thinking he's going to cup the puck and just shoot it, you're wrong. He's going to pull it in. He's going to push it out. It's never the angle that the goalie thinks is coming. And I mean, it's not, you can work on that all the time, and every NHL player does, but it's a natural born skill to be able to shoot it with the accuracy, power, and deception that they all do. And I mean, Matthews is another great one where you're talking about deception in the wrist shot.
Well, first,
David.
I know we were in college. It was junior year. That toe drag through the legs in overtime. I forgot who.
Oh my God.
We were watching that. May or may not have money on it off the record, but I mean, that was just it's just the deceptiveness. It's hard to explain too. If let's say you don't play hockey, you're seeing it's beautiful to look at, but the skill you need to do that against these are high caliber goaltenders, and that one little wrist motion, that one little movement changes the game for goaltending entirely. That's why backhands are the hardest shots to stop. It's because you don't know where that's going. And for the same way with that, if you go to toe drag the wrist shot, he could be letting it going at the heel at the stick, the end of it. You have no idea. And by the time you realize where that puck's going, it's game over.
Yeah, and we've seen Sidney Crosby make a living off backhands like that because his backhand is as good, if not better, than some players' forehand, and it's too deceptive to stop.
You know what I saw? I don't know where I saw it, but today they were showing a highlight of Malkin's spinorama back angle.
Oh, and against Edmonton, right?
Oh my! I think it's against Cam Talbot.
Yeah.
And that might be one of the nicest goal. I don't think I'll forget that goal because
I don't know if he meant to put it there.
It doesn't matter. If you ask him now, he's going to say it in his thick accent that he did. So,
I mean that was like Patrick Kane-esque too.
I have some breaking news.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, LeBron. The NHL has scheduled a Board of Governors call for Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to update clubs on things. So that means tomorrow at 4.
That can't be a bad thing.
No, it really can't. What they're probably going to tell them is, hey, we're starting the 13th. Get ready for training camp. Let's get it going.
Maybe they're going to tell them about a vote that took place. We said that 2/3 owners vote had to be. So it could be saying geographic.
If they're having it on Wednesday right now, I'm assuming that vote went smooth and they're doing the realignment.
Now, if that's what it is, this is all speculation. But they're definitely going to be telling the players about what they're expecting for the season.
Yeah.
Expected start dates. We were talking about training camp and how they're not sure and their chemistry can be affected. So that's definitely what this is going to be about to get ready to come back. But listen, last week everything was rumors. Oh my God, the CBA is this. The league won't give the players this. The players aren't talking. There's no players association meetings with the league. And now the news that we're getting is so much more positive.
Stefan's tweet came along and it's all sunshine and rain.
You're a game changer, Mr. Rosner.
I try my best. But no, yeah, Pierre LeBrun did this one, and it's not me this time. I'm not going to take credit for it. But he had an extension of his tweet. He had a subtweet. He wrote, "Meanwhile, the NHLPA had an executive board call today. Player reps for all 31 teams. Just an update on things given on the news and developments of the past few days." So right now, pretty much, the league is just making sure that everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, but it has to be.
It has to happen. The question now becomes: Is there going to be preseason? Is there going to be one game like we saw before the round robin and the bubble stuff? So, I mean, I don't know how much you take into consideration preseason. For the Islanders, it would have been great because you could have given Sorokin a couple of stars. Right then and there, you might have been able to tell if he was ready. You don't get that luxury, but hockey's coming back, Brendan. Hockey is coming back. I think it's time to talk about some outdoor games.
Now, this is a very interesting possibility because it was floated around earlier.
This idea or initially thought about it, this is a very, very, very smart idea.
It is. And listen, I know some people are like, oh, the Winter Classic is losing its allure. It's not the same as it used to be. It still draws huge numbers, both television and attendance.
That's all that they care about. I mean, yes, they want it to be a great fan experience, but they need as many fans in a building as physically possible for television rights, ticket sales, which is what most teams make their money off of. So if you could pack a Fenway Park or anywhere, a football stadium with that many fans that you can't do during a season, let's say some places, let's say New York, you can't pack a Madison Square Garden or Nassau Coliseum, which, yes, I know, he doesn't pack that much. But
well, when you think about it, how much does the average arena in the NHL hold?
Did not put me on the spot. I'm bad at numbers.
Okay, well, usually it's between probably 17 to 20,000 in that range.
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to a football stadium that seats, I don't know, upwards of 50,000 people, and you socially distance the seats, you're now seating an average NHL arena. You're basically selling out your games, which in a season where you have to make some more money and find new ways of revenue, for a league that does so great with gate revenue, why not have that as an option? And granted, it takes a lot to set these up. These aren't done overnight. But if you could have a few more where people can actually come, and then as the season progresses and we get closer to having everyone getting vaccinated and successfully, hopefully, and fans now in more states start to being allowed to go to indoor games, albeit socially distanced probably as well, all of a sudden the money starts looking better.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is, you have to get the cost. I can't even tell you what the cost is of putting this together. I know they get that whatever guy they get every time. I forgot his name, and I'm sorry that I forgot his name. But the guy that's in charge of every Winter Classic.
I think it's Bill Daly. Is that no?
That's the deputy commissioner.
You're right.
Look at me flex on my knowledge, but no, you look at it and it's whoever that guy is that's in charge of watching the weather. I mean, that's another thing too is the game can happen, right? They cancel it. That's tough. You're not in your regular. It's also not in your regular season either. I know the Winter Classic usually January 1st, January 2nd. It's right after the holidays.
It's New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, so January 1st, and I mean. It's interesting to see, again, though. It's going to cost a lot of money, and we have to see if fans can be allowed. If a team like Boston can house fans every home game, is there a necessity to have an outdoor game? No, but for like the Islanders or the Rangers, I know Jersey's opening up a little bit. If they want to have a game at MetLife between the Islanders and the Rangers and sell tickets, I mean, that might be a smarter decision because they can't have fans in their seats. So it really depends on the location of the teams, because if places could house fans, and yes, it's not a full maxed out thing, the cost for it might not make sense.
Yeah, it really necessarily doesn't. And I know the interesting thing about this that gets brought up every time outdoor games get talked about in the NHL and the Rangers are mentioned is the Rangers contractually are not allowed to be the home team outside of MSG. The only way they could be the home team is if there's a extenuating circumstance that forces them to play somewhere else, a la coronavirus. What happened?
We have a caller.
Oh, do we?
Hold on
Let's go to lines.
Hello, you are on the BS Sports Show. How are you doing today?
Hey guys, great to be on the show. So my question is, which teams do you think benefit from this awkward season in the 56 games?
Hey, thank you very much for the call. So
it's a great question.
Which teams benefit the most from a shortened season? Continue.
I think we've touched on tandems and how that helps. So I think the Islanders and Rangers do benefit. I think the team that benefits the most from it is the Boston Bruins because of that Jennings tandem.
No, I would completely agree with that answer. You just got to think of teams that, again, streaky teams. I think the Sabres. Hands down, the team that benefits the most from a shortened season is a Sabres team is up there because they start off so freaking well. So well. And they get everybody's hopes up and they just hit the fan every single season. And if they can start off hot, yes, that's a long shot that they start off hot because, again, they're playing very good competition. And right off the bat, every game is pretty much like a playoff game. So it's not going to be the same where, okay, we're getting our feet underneath us. Like you see in baseball, most no-hitters and perfect games happen early in the season because the hitters aren't ready. So everyone's going to be ready to go or they're all going to be slow out of the gates. It's not going to be like one team's going to be far superior. Everyone's getting ready at the same time. They have a couple of weeks to get ready, then you go. But this really could benefit a team like the Sabres. That's where I would leave that.
Yeah, I think the other two teams that come to my mind are the Tampa Bay Lightning, just because you said streaky and how good they are. And then the other one's the Vegas Golden Knights because they do still have Leonard and Fleury together. They're loaded up front, and they added Alex Pietrangelo on the back end. So in a shortened sprint, they could have the talent to just pull away enough where they're chilling with a great spot in the division.
Now you also got to think of teams that have players that get hurt.
Yep.
All the time.
Well, listen, in a shortened season, that's going to be more prevalent than ever. And now if you're on a team where you have 2 or 3 guys go down with an injury and you have another 2 guys to go down with COVID,
you're done unless a guy steps up like we saw with Dallas with that young guy that stepped up and went absolutely off in the playoffs. But Kiviranta. But if you don't have a guy like that steps up and you have a rookie that's maybe not ready, first off, now the team's not going to do well. You might be hurting that player's development as well. If he's not ready to be in the NHL and they have to call him up, we saw that with Josh Bailey. When he first came up, they kept pushing the envelope for him to be that guy, and he showed that he wasn't ready, but they stuck with him, went back and forth. That hurt. That might hurt development, and in a shortened season, is it worth hurting development to win? No asterisk. I'm not saying that this season doesn't count. I'm just saying that's got to be a thought process. But I think, Brendan, NHL Rewind is something we really want to get to because every week seems to be Tuesdays are the days. Every Tuesday seems like.
Listen, when we were picking the day for the show, we didn't realize how successful we'd be with our throwback on this date in histories. But kicking things off in 1987, Ron Hextall becomes the first goalie to score by shooting the puck into an empty net in a 5-2 win over Boston. Billy Smith was the first goalie to ever score a goal in the NHL, but he got credit for a goal because he was the last Islander player to touch the puck, and then the other team shot it into their own net. So Ron Hextall becomes the first goalie to actually shoot the puck into an opposing team's net. And listen, Pecorine did it this year, and we still go crazy for goalie goals.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's probably one of the greatest, as a goalie who's never done it and will never do it just because it's very hard to do. And you got to have it's just not going to happen for me. I've settled with that, and I'm okay with it. It's always Mike Smith saved the All-Star game when he put it through the little hole. That was crazy. Everybody goes nuts. And when it happens in an actual game,
that was crazy. And
Hextall has done it more than once. This was the first of what? I think he did like 3 times.
That I don't know.
I think I might be right. I don't know. I think.
I'll give you credit for being right. Sure, why not?
We'll check it. 1931. Bruins lose 3-2 to the New York Americans, ending their 24-game unbeaten streak. 19 wins, 5 ties. Sounds like the Chicago Blackhawks of 2014.
Yeah, it does, except they probably didn't get points for a tie. And I think that when you look at unbeaten streaks like that, especially in those days with the grinded-out style and how physical it was, those are really impressive. They didn't have overtimes to decide things. Not like now where it's 3-on-3 and then a shootout. If they're winning, they're earning their wins.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Keep talking. I'm looking up the Ron Hextall thing. I want to see if I was right.
Oh, you want to see if he scored 3 other times on an empty net?
Yeah.
Well, I'll go to 1993 now because that is our next one. Jari Kurri becomes the highest-scoring European player, passing Peter Stastny with his 1,223rd point in the NHL. He wound up finishing with 1,398. Of course, now Jaromir Jagr is the highest-scoring European player of all time. He scored twice?
Yeah, scored twice. Him and Brodeur are the only 2 to have accomplished that feat twice, but 11 goaltenders in general have done it.
Well, Brodeur was one of the first. I'm going to play the puck wherever. He basically created the trapezoid. Yep.
Thanks to him, we get all these plays in Cho, and our computerized goalie wants to play the puck out of the zone.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Okay, continue.
I don't understand how a computer goalie takes a penalty in shell. It makes no sense to me. That game is so broken.
That's time for another.
In 2014, playing in his 1,500th game at 41 years of age, Jaromir Jagr scores a goal and an assist for the Devils in a 2-1 win over Carolina. The ageless wonder, is he still playing in Czech Republic?
He's literally going to say the ageless wonder, and I think he is. There was a picture of him with a jersey. I think he's still playing. I don't think he'll ever stop playing.
The only way he's going to stop playing is if both his legs break or if somebody goes, you know what, you're just not allowed. You're going to have a health condition if you play, but he's got to be 50.
Dude, he's going to say, I don't care about the health issues. He's over 50. He's 51 or 52. But no, someone was telling me a story about Jaromir Jagr, and they said that he's the first one on the ice at practice, last one off. He skates with weights. He's 48 years old right now.
Did you ever see the picture of him training during, I think it was his final NHL season, with the weighted vest, the weighted leg pads on it, the weighted pucks?
Crazy. And that's why he's been able to play for this long, because his body isn't failing him. You see other players where it's like, okay, they're old, you feel it, and they don't want to put in not saying that they don't deserve to take a break and retire. It's you have to, at some point, the mental grasp of getting up in the morning and doing that. After a while, sometimes you had enough. Anyone doing any job when they retire, I don't want to do the 8 to 4, 9 to 5 anymore. I want to relax and sleep in. This guy Jagr's up at 5 a.m. drinking his coffee or whatever he drinks. I don't know. He's a different animal.
He's drinking the Russian gas.
Yeah, and he's just working out, going on the ice. He might do all that stuff even when he doesn't have a game for fun. It's a habit. Hockey players sport players in general are creatures of habit that unless he can't run and play hockey anymore, I can't see him not playing.
Yeah, and the last one on this list is my favorite one because of bias, obviously. In 2019, so just this last season, the New York Rangers defeated the Vegas Golden Knights 5-0, getting points from each of their 6 defensemen in the game, and it was the second time they had done that in the 2019-20 season. Now, the interesting thing about that is that feat had only been done once in their previous 33 seasons, and they had done it twice at that point in December.
So you're saying that Mark Stahl and Brendan Smith both had points?
That I'm not sure because Brendan Smith could have been playing forward.
But Mark Stahl definitely, because he wasn't.
Mark Stahl, by the way, the goal of the Rangers season was his wraparound for the first goal of the season, and then he proceeded to not score again for the next 70 games.
Hey, you got to start off hot, and then just you set the mark high. That's funny though.
Do you remember watching that? How I said, "Please tell me that wasn't him," because I would have to say something nice about him.
Yeah, you were flipping out more. I was just wondering how on earth he did that, and then I knew for a fact he was never scoring again. That's a lucky one. That first off,
he surprised himself.
For Mark Stahl to score is one thing. For him to be in the play below the circle to wrap one around, What is he, Crosby? Who does he think he is? Clearly, he was an imposter for a game.
That goal took me back to like 2012 when he was scoring in the OT against the Capitals, and he was an actual legitimate defenseman. And I mean, he's another one kind of similar to Rick DiPietro, where the what if that puck never hit him in the eye?
No, a lot of players like that. Kyle Oposo had an eye injury.
Yep.
Now Hocher's career was cut short due to his eye injury. I think he's coaching now for some team, which is great for him. But no, injuries play a huge part. But Brendan, did the Rangers win that first game?
With
Stahl's goal. The first game of the season, did they win?
Yeah, that was the game they won 6-5.
So when Mark Stahl goal was, the Rangers are undefeated.
No, because he scored in the postseason against Carolina.
That's postseason now.
That's when it matters.
Simply when it matters. All right, we got a couple minutes left, so you want to touch on this Pittsburgh Penguin thing?
Might as well. I'll let you start because
okay.
it blows my mind that this still happens.
Very, very confusing storyline. It could be a movie. They might make a movie out of it. They have to get people's rights, of course, to sign off. But the minor league coach for the Penguins, AHL, Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I think if I got this right, Brendan, you tell me if I'm wrong. The coach's wife was sexually assaulted by another coach, and he was forced to keep quiet during the season. Is that right?
I believe you're right. From what I read from the headlines that I saw on Twitter, you're correct.
So, and he's also a serial sex offender, which means that they are saying that this coach that assaulted this coach's wife has done this numerous times. And
Allegedly. We must say allegedly because nothing's been confirmed yet.
And you're also innocent until proven guilty. But the fact that, first off, that the organization told somebody to keep quiet, if it's true, that's a no-no. And that's just terrible. And number two.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad look, but also sexual assault is nothing to joke about, and it's ridiculous that it still happens. And the fact that, first off, they were told to keep quiet, and that was pretty much because if you speak up about this incident, you'll get fired. And that's just terrible. That's your wife. And we don't know anything about the case at all. We don't know if he tried to come forward or maybe this is him coming forward now to make sure that guy gets what he deserves. Anyway, you're a piece of crap. If you're worse than a piece of crap. You're worthless if you're gonna sexually assault people. And it's awful on the Penguins. It's awful to have a guy be quiet for this. This is just, come on, it's 20. You can't do. First off, you should never be able to do this, let alone get away with it. What the league does now, I guarantee there'll be an investigation. You just can't do this. This is unreal that this has to even be talked about.
Well, if there's one good thing that's come over the last year and a half of the NHL, it's that they're weeding out those undesirable characters in the sport, and they're starting to find them more often and get rid of them quicker. And it definitely helps out, because we want the game to be as clean and as open to everyone as possible. I know that for me, we had talked about with Tolik Bortz from Alternate how we can spread it to lower income communities, because the one thing that stops hockey from being, as accessible as basketball, soccer, and all these other sports is the expense of playing, not only ice time, but equipment wise as well. And it's all the same social issues and things like that. And there's no room for this.
No,
there's no need to ever assault anybody, whether it's physically or sexually. It just doesn't make sense. And I hope that if this winds up being true, like we said, it's an accusation, it's alleged right now, but we'll see how it plays out. And if it is true, he's got to be dealt with in the right way.
He's getting fired, and there'll be fines, and it'll be a mess, but well-deserved mess. Whatever happens to this guy, he deserves it. But you brought up a great point with Tolik Bortz and Alternate. We got a couple minutes. Let's talk about it. Alternate is a company that takes old jerseys and converts them into usable masks, face masks, to fight COVID. And they also collect old hockey equipment and deliver it to families that can't afford to get it. And it's December 8th. The holidays are coming around, and what me and Brendan are going to do is during this holiday, we're going to come around and collect from you guys, whether it's old equipment, doesn't have to be matching gloves, old jerseys. Everyone's getting new jerseys for the holidays. You're going to throw out the old ones that you don't like if you don't like the player or the player's gone, whatever. Don't toss them in the trash. Let us come and get it from you and collect it. It's going to a great cause. I mean, masks not everyone can get masks. They seem like, okay, they're $1 here, they're $1 there. But they're not accessible for everybody. And for families that really need it, converting old jerseys is a really cool way to show your support. And old equipment too. We were all, I grew up, I never had new equipment. I wasn't poor. I could have, if I want to get new stuff, I really could have. But for people that want to get into the sport of hockey and they look at ice hockey, so expensive, ice time, skates, your kids go out of skates each year. donate this stuff. Play It Against Sports is a great place on Long Island. I'm not sure if there's one by you, Brendan, but Play It Against
There's nothing by me.
Takes old equipment and they give you 50% of what they're selling it for. So you make a little money back. But instead of going to them this holiday, great place to if you want to go to them. Love them, been going to them for years. Talk to us. We'll be posting more about it as soon as we can get around. Obviously, Long Island's very big, but I would love one day I'm going to go around and drive and collect from you guys. That way it's for a great cause, and why not give back this holiday in one of the worst years we've been alive.
Listen, every hockey player ever grown up playing with had a bunch of sticks and equipment in their basement that they grew out of, because that's what happens when you're younger. And once the holidays come around, you get that new stick, new pair of gloves, new piece of equipment, and the one that you're using now just gets thrown into a bin. So instead of throwing it out or just letting it collect dust in the basement, let's donate it to people that could use it, and let's get some kid who wants to play hockey a mixed match set of equipment, and he can get out there and learn to skate.
Yeah, you can learn more by going to ultranite.com. That's ALTRUNITE.com. Brendan, this has been a fantastic episode. We had a great guest, and it's a positive one because it's not us talking about things that we wish could happen or other bad news. There's a setback with NHLPA escrow. It's not. This is a good episode because hockey is coming back. Again, meetings this Wednesday to discuss everything that's happened to the teams the way they know. And we'll have hockey hopefully real soon. World Juniors coming up. We'll talk more about that next week. But Brendan, it's been great talking to you, and I'll see you next week as well as everybody else.
Always a pleasure.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.